Hello, everyone, and welcome back to TIME100 Talks, our weekly program where we bring together extraordinary leaders, thinkers, activists, artists from around the world to spotlight solutions and encourage progress and change. Today, we're going to be talking about the amazing changes that are happening in the worlds of arts and entertainment, the impact of art as being expressed throughout the pandemic and the impact of the pandemic on artists themselves. We're witnessing some extraordinary changes, and we have some amazing people here today to talk about them. Starting with the magnificent novelist, Angie Thomas, whose books include The Hate You Give, On the Come Up, and Concrete Rose, which is set to be released next year. She'll be in conversation with Time's books editor, Lucy Feldman, talking about how her work connects with the racial tensions and issues the world is confronting right now. The actor and producer Lili Reinhart is also here. She'll be talking with Time's Reza Bruner about how young creatives like herself are coping with the pandemic and the impact it's having on their work and their profession. Reza will also speak with the singer-songwriter Lauv about how he's been managing both his music career and the challenges he's faced with anxiety during these times. And he'll perform his latest single, Love Somebody. But first, let's kick the show off with some comedy. We are really delighted to be joined by the dynamic duo Desus and Mero. They'll be speaking with TIME100 Talks correspondent Ashley C. Ford about how they're keeping comedy at the forefront in these decidedly unfunny times. Ashley?
Hi, I'm Ashley C. Ford, TIME100 Talks correspondent, and I'm joined today by the illustrious host of the #1 show in late night, Desus and Mero. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
So you know the vibes.
You know what I'm saying? Each streamer in the house. It's very beautiful to do these types of things from home with no shoes on. You know what I'm saying?
Can't imagine. I too am not wearing shoes.
Yeah,
shoes.
The only
wiggle
way
your
to go.
toes. You can laugh and like crinkle your toes up like that.
Society has moved past the need for shoes and jeans. We're never
Yes.
going back.
I agree.
Never
Going back.
We're not
Denim
going
is
back
never
to
touching
hard
my butt
pants.
again.
Never.
Straight
Never going back.
straight leisure wear from now on. Wait till the next president is sworn in wearing like jogging pants. It's gonna be great.
You have a Brooks Brothers button up with like Nike Tech sweatpants. Like, I swear to uphold the Constitution.
I fully expect for those things to be Desus and Mero branded as you guys continue to take over the world. And I really wanted to know, because as a longtime viewer, fan of the show, getting to know more and more people who are fans of the show or becoming fans of the show, why is the brand so strong?
Because it's real. It's authentic. It's just like, you know, before we even hit record on this, we were just talking like, you know, regular people just talking about regular shit. You know what I mean? Like not wearing shoes during the pandemic. You know what I mean? Like, and that's just like our energy is just very like, you know, bouncy back and forth, but it's real and it's authentic. Like I woke up this morning, you know, knowing I was going to do this, that we were going to do this. And, you know, I was coming into it like, hey, we're going to have a conversation with Ashley today. You know what I mean? Not like, we're in the TIME100 influencers of the millennium, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? It's just regular, you know, like, hey, let's chop it up.
Yeah.
What's going on?
I think it's because it's something you can't get anywhere else. There's no other show like this. There's no other real energy like this. A lot of shows that try to have this energy, it feels forced, and you can definitely feel that the combination was created in a boardroom or an algorithm, or they saw two people had high Twitter followings and put them together, and then you put them in a room and the shit is boring. There's no energy. You don't want to listen to the shit. The shit's painful. And with us, it's low effort, high quality art. It's just like you get a little bit of both. You can get like the Susio, you get like the porn references, but then you'll get some high level dissertations about government and different things like that. So people like that, and the fact that it feels so of the moment. And I think people kind of enjoying it because they're like, it's also like, how much longer is it going to last? Because Corona is changing up everything. What we want, the kind of entertainment we consume is changing. So it's just, at this point before, it was just like, yo, this is so different than anything else out there. And now it kind of feels like, yo, this is like probably the last thing we had that was regular before coronavirus. Because like a lot of people hit me up now and they're like, yo, if it wasn't for your show, they wouldn't know what week it was. They wouldn't know what day of the week it is. And I'm the same way. There's some days that I like 11 o'clock on a Tuesday night, I'll turn to Showtime and I'm like, oh, tonight's not Monday, or tonight's not Saturday or Sunday, whatever night. So you know, it helps set a routine, and people like that, you know. And it's just also, it doesn't really feel like a show. Where other shows, it feels like, hey, you're sitting there and someone's talking to you. With this is more like you're sitting there with two people and you're having a conversation about what happened in the world. So it's just like you're talking with your boys, like, yo, did you see that? And then we turn to you like, yo, did you see that? And like the same thing that, like, for example, the Trump press conference, the same thing that you saw, and you were like, yo, what the f? When we watch it, we're like, exactly, what the f? And it's not like other talk shows where it's just like something happens and the host does written joke, wait, punchline, haha. Like, we're just like, yo, what the f was that? Sometimes that's all you have to say is what the f was that? And that surmises everything that's happened. And we've used that line a lot in 2020.
Have you guys been embraced by other talk show hosts? By the talk show host community?
It's wild. It's wild to see that, because you would think, like, you know, it's very like competition, like I must destroy you. But like Jimmy Fallon, Seth Meyers in particular, you know, have been like very inviting and welcoming and being like, hey, come on the show. Like, let's talk about your show. Like, which is in direct competition with my show, but it's cool. You know what I'm saying? Like, but I guess they see the value of what we bring to the table. You know what I mean? Even David Letterman, who's like the Michael Jordan of late night, was like, this is what late night should be. You know, regular people talking about regular stuff, you know, in like a not pretentious and not like super overproduced kind of way.
Yeah, and also we're more than talk show hosts. Like, the idea that we're talk show hosts is kind of, that's more on the industry than it is on us, because it's just like, when we made the show, they're like, you got to interview people. It's like, okay. Like, when we first started the show, when we first started the show, the interviews were boring. I'm not even gonna lie, like, because we weren't getting big guests. Like, we were getting people that was kind of like, not the Showtime show, but when we first started in the industry, the interviews were just like people we could get or whatever. And it's just, as you get bigger and bigger, it becomes, oh, you got to have this person. Who's the big guest on your show? And that's never really what our show is about. The show is about us. And if we happen to have Joe Biden on, hey, talk to that guy for a couple of minutes. Hey, but at the end of the day, it's us. And that's the other thing. Like, it's not really an acceptance from the other talk show hosts. It's kind of like a reverence. And it's just like, yo, we see what you're doing, and I respect it, because they're just like, the level of output you guys do and the way you guys work, I couldn't do. Like, I don't understand how you guys don't burn out. So it's just kind of that thing. Like, it's because you come from two different schools of thought. Like, they were raised to be talk show hosts. They might have went to UCB. They might have went to Second City. They worked on other people's shows. We just come out the gate like, boom, here's our show. We're going to do it like two guys talking in the bodega. And that's what has remained. People have tried to change it, but we've kept it very authentic to what it originally was.
Being in quarantine right now, one of the things that I've been, to be honest, shocked by is how seamlessly the show has moved from a live studio audience to this situation, and how I don't really feel like we're missing much or anything at all in that transition as a viewer. But how is the experience of quarantine for the two of you in your homes? Because it has to be, I'm guessing, pretty massively different given the different family structures here.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. I mean, like, personally, like, it's kind of like, in the beginning it was difficult, I'm not gonna lie, because I'm a very compartmentalizing type of guy. So it was like very much like, okay, I'm in the office, I'm in the studio, you know, the Kid Mero, and I'm you know, doing jokes and interviews, and my guy Desus is here, we're doing our thing, and then I'm home and I'm daddy, you know, I'm daddy and I'm husband. So you know, having to, like, instead of like getting in a car and going to a studio, it's, you know, kind of getting out of bed, washing my ass, and then going downstairs into the basement. You know what I mean? And my kids will follow me the whole way. Where are you going? What are you doing? This is weird. This is different. We don't have school. Our school's on a computer. Can you help me do my math? I'm like, yo, hold on one second. Joe Biden. Hold on one second. Let me go over here. My son has to do 10 push-ups. I got to do it on Zoom with him. You know what I mean? So it was just like, in the beginning it was difficult, and then I got used to it, and it's been fun. Like, honestly, like, I get to lock myself in here. This is like every married man's dream. Like, you get to lock yourself in your basement for a couple hours a day and just be like, woosah, and just like laugh at your friend. You know? Yeah,
this is kind of a monotonous hell. Being stuck inside for 4 months. I'm like a very social person. I love going out. I was supposed to go to. So we were supposed to be in Europe, me and my boy Tommy and some other stuff. And we always, like, you know, like, you're traveling, you got enjoy, do it while you can, and just it's the monotony of just over and over. Because I'm really not going out. I'm social distancing. Right. Listen, I'm not too far away from Red Rooster. If I wanted to, I could go smoke some hookah right now. I choose not to be a socially responsible person, but you do miss the human contact. You do miss just being out in the city, just because like that's kind of what you get for this show. You got to have that energy, see what people are talking about, what music is going on, even going to the protests and things like that, like getting that kind of energy. And now it's just, I think it's not so much monotonous, but it's more a mental toll in that if you're the person doing the stuff that you're supposed to be doing to get us out of COVID and you're surrounded by people who aren't, it gets to a point where you're just like, what am I doing? Like, why can't I have a piece of the birthday cake that everyone is eating and running around the Chuck E. Cheese enjoying? So you get that, but then on the other side, you got to balance it because it's like we are making entertainment for people and it's getting a lot of people through a tough time. So you got to keep that, but there's something, it's very anticlimactic getting all dolled up and ready to perform, and then it's like, all right, I'll go in that room right there, and it's just like, all right. And then like even some of the changes that came with it are different. For example, people on our team, because of the tropical storm, were losing power left and right, and that's never been an issue we had to deal with. That's like some Oregon Trail thing right there. Like, people's like, yo, my Wi-Fi's down, or a tree took out my power line, and now you have to change how you do the connections and all that stuff. But you know, we're rolling with the punches. We still out here. I mean, the fact that we're even still able to make TV, that's incredible right there. Like, because we thought in the beginning, we was like, all right, I guess we're about to be on a 6-month vacation, but no, got these MacBooks up and running and still making content. So, you know, like with the good comes the bad, and the good outweighs the bad.
That feeling of monotony and of like that Jesus is talking about, like I feel like what you provide to other people kind of like gives that back. Like there's a stupid gif of me on Twitter or something that's like, it's like I give you energy and you give it back to me, like, and it's just like, you know what I mean, like it's that vibe. I know, you know what I mean, like I don't see it, but I feel it. Like you right now, like there's thousands of yous that are watching the show and are like, yo, this is like my woosah, you know what I mean? So just knowing that gives you that was good. Okay, you know, today wasn't so bad. Yeah, just a little
gratitude seasoning.
Yeah, you know.
Yes.
Let it marinate overnight, you know, put it on the grill.
You can take jokes up to the line. Like when something is happening in the world, and for a second, I might think, I don't know that a person can make a good joke out of that. You guys say something, and I'm like, you know what? That's the only joke that you can make about this situation. How do you toe that line and sort of allow yourselves to be funny and irreverent in real and ways that push an envelope without going into those isms?
Right. You know, it's as simple as like zooming out of yourself. Like forget about yourself and think about people as a whole. You know what I mean? And just like, you know, it takes a split second. Like people act like this is such a difficult thing to do. It takes a split second to be like, yo, is this going to make this group of people really upset if I say this? You know what I'm saying? Like it takes a split second to say, yes, all right, chill, I'm not going to go there. And it's kind of lazy joke writing and lazy joke telling to like not look for a clever way to engage with something.
It's like it's about personal responsibility. If you say something, you gotta be prepared for the fallback and the fallout of what you said. So with that comes, you have to ask yourself, was this joke worth saying? Like, was this joke even funny? Did I just make a joke, or did I just say something wild up that a couple of people chuckled at? Because some people have made a big career of that. Some people sell out stadiums doing that. And it's just like, it's about self-awareness, and also just certain things are not funny. But certain things, like if you're sure of your sense of humor, you can look at it and be like, I know the angle to take this at. And you can say that with your chest, and you're not worried about what other people are going to say, because you know that it's an honest joke. It's a clean joke. Like, unfortunately, like with the Herman Cain dying, that's a sensitive subject. But at the same time, there is something to be said there. And there's also like a social justice issue there in the idea that an older black man basically gave up his life to follow a racist. He threw his life down on the line, signed a waiver for what? For a tweet. And at the end of it, all we got out of it is being able to retweet that and be like, this you? So, I mean, like, this is life now. This is reality, and humor has to change in a certain way. And I think that's the other thing that helps our show, because no one ever watches the show and sees this coming at an angle of being malicious, because it was never that. Like, we'll joke about someone's situation, but not necessarily the person. Except for the guy on the last episode that grew the on his arm, he had to get roasted. Sorry.
Yeah. You got
rules is rules.
Like,
rules is rules. Like,
you know, there's levels, bro. Like, yeah, you knew when they put the on arm, you knew we were coming for you.
You got okay. I'm a professional. You guys have been ending every single episode for the last several weeks with a call to arrest the cops who killed Breonna Taylor.
Right.
How did that come? Is that organic, or was that a decision made that you guys were like, hey, this is what we're going to do until it happens?
It was just
completely organic.
Yeah.
And
everything that we yell at the end of the show is completely organic.
I did it, and I was like, yo, if they edit it, they edit it. And then Showtime was like, do we really want to go tell a black person they're not going to be able to say arrest Breonna Taylor? Like, is this a series of emails we want to set up? Is this something we want to, you know, like, but that's the beauty of the show. They would never push back on something like that. Like, something like that, they're like, all right, if that's where you're going, that's where we're going. And it's also the fact that we have this platform and we have to use our voice. Like, what other talk show is ending saying, arrest the cops that killed Breonna Taylor? If you think about it, most people watching the show, if you watch it when it comes on, you're literally in your house sleeping. You're in your bed the same way she was when the cops came in and murdered her. So that little reminder right there, just to remind people who might not necessarily see Breonna Taylor when they look in the reflection, you could be in the same situation as her, just like that. And so that opens up a bigger conversation about police violence, defunding the police, just even our rights as American citizens when it comes to working with the police. And you get all of that from just saying a couple of words at the end of your show. So that shows the power of your platform, and that shows that we don't take that for granted. We realize how important it is, and we're using our voice for hopefully for change.
Yeah, because everybody has a role to play in this whole thing. You know what I mean? Like, if you can't be out there on the streets, if you can't be, you know, if you have a platform, if you have a megaphone, use that megaphone. You know what I mean? Like, it's very simple. You know what I mean? Because a lot of people are like, oh, you know, things are performative and this, that, the third. It's like, okay, like, if you have millions of viewers, saying something like that is impactful. You know what I mean? Like, it's not performative. It actually it makes a difference. You know, people, like you said, people change their minds. If you change 5 people's minds, you won.
You know, for anybody else, I think it would have been really abrupt and hard to make the transition from arms to defunding the police. But that's sort of the thing about you guys' show is that you can do that, and you don't, and as a viewer, you don't necessarily feel that either of those sides of the spectrum are disingenuous to who you are in any way. That's really hard to maintain in this industry, don't you think?
It is, but I think it's a microcosm of life in the hood or life in any inner city community. Because every now and then you get the blind side. You get some white person like, oh my God, he speaks so well. He's so smart. Look at this one kid in the school. And it's just like, no, there are so many like smart kids, smart brown kids that can talk like us and can tell you to go but they also can name all the presidents in alphabetical order. You know what I'm saying? There's that balance everywhere. And the fact that we have it, people just like, wow, that's so rare. But this is like, we all grown up knowing people that could do this. We have all known that really smart thug or that the girl that everyone's like she's a bird, but she's super smart. And people call her a bird just because she has like flashy fingernails. You know what I mean? So just this is just us. This is just us. And I think that might also be something that people appreciate about the show, because it's just like, we remind them of people they know, or that we're not trying to be just one specific thing. We're messy. We're messy and we're good. You know what I mean? We're out here with the Tims and the chopped cheese and the and we're making dirty porno jokes and hanging with Sarah J. But at the same time, we're talking about politics, we're talking about real stuff. We we're bringing Dr. Nina on the show. We're interviewing real people with real problems and trying to do real solutions. So I think just that duality, people really appreciate that. And that helps the show flow.
Listen, from democratic socialism to arms, you know what I'm saying? You get it all.
On Desus and Mero.
That was the original tagline. That was the one thing Showtime pushed back on.
They're like, what about Richard Arms?
They was like, they was like, I don't think we could put arms on the side of MTA buses. And I was like, wow. I was like, this is anti-black. Wow.
Here we are again. You have a new book coming out in September. God Level Knowledge Darts, Life Lessons from the Bronx.
Yes.
What's one of those life lessons that we should all be taking to heart right now?
Ooh, man.
Avoid the bookings. That is a very important life lesson. And people just like, what does that mean? Oh, like it means don't go to jail. Like, no, it just means like just move safe. Just think about things before you do them. Think about situations before you enter them, because that's how you get jammed up in life. Like, bookings is not there waiting for you to tumble into it. Bookings is set up to bring your black ass in there. You know what I'm saying? It's set up for you, any little violation you do, to bring it in there. And it's just kind of just like, that should be your metaphor for life. Keep your head on a swivel and know that there's people out there that want to put you, they have a plan for you. So you have to come up with your own plan. And see, even that, like, you know, shout out to Twitter. Like, we can tweet that, but you only have but so many characters. And I'm not going to do a 39 tweet thread because nobody's reading that to explain it. So that's the beauty of the book. We're able to we're able to talk more about our tweets and about like what made the tweet and just like basically our mindset. And it's a great book. It's a fantastic book. Be sure to pick it up. And also we have the virtual book tour coming up. So you can add, if you have any weird questions and you want to be the word guy, be like, yo, why did you use this word on page 36? And we have no idea what you're talking about. Be sure to come through. It'll be fun.
I'm halfway through the book. I can confirm.
Yeah.
That was complete stream of consciousness. That was like very Langston Hughes. Like, I was just in the basement like, yo, you know what? Yeah.
All caps.
Yeah.
All caps, establishing the voice early on. Because you're real writers. That's how I feel about it. When you think about the position you're in right now, in this time in America, during an election year, a global pandemic, racial tension in the streets, like all of this stuff going on, police brutality, where do you find hope?
The new Logic
younger
album.
Generation, man.
Listen, it's getting me through some things.
Oh, word. Right? You know what I'm saying? Yo, that's nah. I mean, for me, it's the youth. You know what I mean? Because you see, like, generationally, things are changing. You know what I mean? Like, people's mindsets are changing. Like, you know, from my father's generation to my generation to my kids' generation, like the kids are thinking differently. And they're being more proactive earlier. You know, you see kids as young as like, you know, 11, 12, 13, 14 at protests and being socially active and talking about their civic duties and stuff like that. Like, that, you know, gives me hope. Just knowing that, like, you know, we're talking shit and we're making jokes or whatever, but like the little, you know, medicine and the sugar that we're putting out there is like, is working for some people.
Yeah, I think about the saying, the phrase "things fall apart, the center cannot hold." That kind of gives me hope, because they always said the problem with America was we've always been too passive. We've always just been comfortable, because people were always like, Americans will never take to the street as long as they have bread in their kitchens and shows on TV. And the thing is, things have gotten to the point with America, like, unfortunately, things have gotten so bad with just like racial injustice and income inequality that people have to go to the streets. People don't have jobs. The government is not providing people with PPE. The government is not providing people with even the necessities to pay their rent. People who have gone 6 months without paying their rent. And things have gotten to a point now where it's just like, right now it's an important time in America, I believe, that it's either, are you with us or are you against us? And a lot of people have to stop and realize us does not mean us. Us means everyone with money who controls this. And when I say money, I don't mean like me and Mero. Like, people was like, yo, y'all got, look at all those sneakers.
Yeah,
like,
no.
I'm
a thousandaire.
All right, there's no,
Please.
And then, to be fair, that was us a couple of years ago. We was like, yo, if you get 40,000 in the bank, you balling.
You rich.
And now, you know, we meet people who are just like upset because they're only worth $4 billion. You know what I mean? Like, that kind of shit. And you're meeting people who are worth billions of dollars, and they spent 30 million on a Picasso. And then meanwhile, like, outside my building this morning, the line for the food kitchen around the block, the line wrapped twice. So it's just like, you see this difference, and it's just like, how can we allow both of these things to happen in the country? And they both can't happen. And it's just the fact that more people are waking up and realizing this. And even people who aren't necessarily affected by it, like people who have money are just like, yo, I didn't know Jeff Bezos how's he still making money during a pandemic? You know what I'm saying? Like, how are they about to close down the post office? The post office has always been there. So it's just like these little pops of light. Everyone's kind, you know, like, unfortunately, the word that was stolen from us, everyone's becoming woke. And I think that ideally is going to lead to a better America. It has to, because America as it is can't continue. Like, this is not, this ain't working.
Yeah,
this is not
it's
working.
funny because,
so that, I mean, not to cut you off, but that, like Meryl said, and it's the young people like we grew up and, you know, like we grew up through crack, we grew up through the 90s. We were just like, yo, we kind of just were like, yo, things have always been messed up. Things are always going to be messed up. And this next generation is like, nah, we're not going through this. We're not putting up with this. Y'all live this, that. No, we ending this start right now.
Yeah. My kids are like, a copy stepping on my head for no reason. Out of here. You know what I mean? Like, that's the type of time they're on, you know? And it's funny because like when my father comes from that type of, like, my parents are like from that type of, you know, cloth, like very radical, very like, you know, like, no, we got to take it to the streets and like burn tires and like it up. So like he's in DR and he's like, oh, I'm talking with him and he's just like, Papa, you seen what's happening over there? It's cool. It's cool. Revolution. You know, like, and I'm just like, okay. I was like, because I was always of that mindset. Like people, like nothing's going to change until there's like radical change. You know what I mean? And now we're starting to see it.
Guys, thank you so much for being on the show today. I've had an amazing time getting to talk with you. In a moment, we have New York Times bestselling author Angie Thomas. But before we get to that, we recently took a moment to catch up with Keedron Bryant, the young Black man whose song, I Just Want to Live, went viral and amplified the Black Lives Matter movement after the death of George Floyd. Check it out.
I'm a young Black man doing all that I can to stand.
Me, my sister, my mom, we watched the Mr. George Floyd killing video. That was just really, really sad and heartbreaking. Right after that, my mom gave me the lyrics to I Just Want to Live. I prayed over the lyrics and I meditated over the lyrics. And I went back downstairs and I said, I'm ready to record, and we recorded it.
My people don't want no trouble. We've had enough struggle. I just wanna live. God protect me.
The message is that Black people just want to live on earth, and we just want to go out and enjoy life and not have fear in our minds that something bad is going to happen to us. When I read through the comments, people are saying, well, you sung what I was feeling, and everybody's saying this is the new Black national anthem. I started singing at the age of 5, 6 years old. I sung in church, in the children's choir. When I was 7 years old, that's when I knew that I loved singing and that was going to be my career. And I guess now it's just a dream come true. Now I'm actually here in LA working on my album. I have finished my EP, so that'll be releasing soon. It's been really exciting, and I'm just really happy to impact the world and that I could be able to touch lives.
Welcome back to Time 100 Talks. We hope you'll participate in today's conversations using the hashtag Time100 Talks. We'd love to hear what's on your mind about art, entertainment, and the future of both. We next have with us the New York Times bestselling author, Angie Thomas. She'll be in conversation with Times books editor, Lucy Feldman. Lucy?
Thank you, Edward, and hello. I'm Lucy Feldman, the books editor for Time, and I am thrilled to be talking about the power of fiction with the incredible Angie Thomas, the best-selling author of The Hate You Give and On the Come Up. Welcome, Angie.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'd love to just start with how you're doing in this crazy, crazy time. What has all of this time with the pandemic and the movement for racial justice looked like for you?
I think for me, it has been sobering in a lot of ways, but also one thing that I've taken away during all of this is just how important self-care is in the midst of it. We can't fight for social justice. We can't fight for any of those things, equality or equity, unless we're taking care of ourselves, And so I'm finding ways to do that and finding ways to balance that. Is it frustrating? Oh, of course. It's super frustrating to know that it took the deaths of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor for so many people in this country to realize that the thing we've been yelling and screaming about for years is real, is happening, and we're not just making it up. We're not overreacting. It took all of these years for a big chunk of people to finally understand why we say Black Lives Matter. So that's at times that's frustrating, but I hold on to hope, and I'm finding ways to make myself heard and to tell the stories that I feel need to be told, and that's the main thing I can do. So it's about finding the balance right now for me, and I think that's what it's about for most of us.
We spoke about a year and a half ago, I think, and we were talking about the Black Lives Matter movement, and you described how you feel like the leaders were doing amazing work, but the country was distracted and they weren't getting enough attention. Does this moment feel truly different?
It does, honestly. At first it seemed as if the words Black Lives Matter were so taboo. People were almost afraid to say it publicly. It was like, and to a degree, it still is. If you're saying it, people think you're making a political statement. But for me, I'm making a personal statement. When I say Black Lives Matter, I'm literally telling you that my life has value. Please remember that. But we're seeing it now to a degree. At times you wonder if this is the easy way out for people. It's easy to say Black Lives Matter, but it's harder to do the work. It's harder to back that up. It's easy for corporations, just like they do in Pride and Pride Month. It's easy for them to say all the right things and do what seems to be the right thing. But what are they really doing in this moment to help the movement go forward and to create actual change? And so I definitely feel like it's different. But now I want to see the result of that difference. I want to see some changes. I want to see some actual policy changes, and I want to see not just talk, but walk. So it'll be interesting to look back on this moment, let's say a year from now or 2 years from now, and see what it has actually done in the movement for social justice and in the movement of anti-racism.
Yeah. I've noticed that some young people have been marching with imagery from your books. What does it mean to you when you see that?
That is probably the biggest honor. I attended a protest right here in Mississippi in Jackson at our state capitol. And when I got there, one of the first things I saw were young people with signs that were made to resemble my book cover. They didn't know I would be there. I didn't know they would be there. And so when I saw it, I almost cried, because it showed me that they read my books and they felt so empowered that it stuck with them in a way that it's partially why they're there at that moment. So for me, I always say, if my legacy is I inspired the next generation of activists, then I'm happy with that. I will happily sit in a rocking chair in the nursing home and be like, maybe I did something all right, But it's an honor. It's an honor. Young people have so much power. And I think one thing we're seeing right now is them realizing that power. We've written them off so often, and we don't give them enough credit for the things that they do. But there are so many young activists who are making changes. There's so many young activists who are doing the work. And then there are young people we don't even know about who are out here doing things that can make a difference. We see it with the TikTok generation, we're calling them Zoomers now. But they are finding ways, and I respect them so much. And I'm honored to know that I can be a microphone for them. I never want to be a voice. I always want to be their microphone and amplify them even louder.
What have your interactions been like with your readers? Have you been receiving more notes these days, more social media posts? What's going on?
Oh yeah, I'm receiving more notes, more DMs, more tags on Instagram and stuff, more emails, more all of that. I've had a lot of young people who have just read my books for the first time, and my books help them to grasp what's happening in the real world. Or I've had young people who've read the books already, and they're like, Angie, this is your book coming to life. And I have to remind them, like, yeah, it was based on real life from the get-go, So they've definitely been letting me know that it's helping them. And for me, that's what it's all about. That's why I sat down and wrote those books. But more importantly, they tell me that it's empowering them. They see themselves, especially in Star, And even in Bree, they see themselves in Bree and how they can make themselves heard through even creative means. So I've had a lot of young rappers reach out to me and they're like, Angie, check out this song I just did inspired by the movement, yeah, check this out. I'm trying to be on my Bree tip. And I'm like, go for it. So,
Oh, I love that.
yeah, so that's gotten me through so much of what's happening right now.
Yeah, that's incredible. So wonderful that you can receive that feedback and interact with your readers. I feel like they probably really need you right now.
Yeah. I'm happy to have that, to be that for them.
Since you brought up Bree, I think we just have to take a little moment to talk about your own rap career.
Or lack thereof.
Well, you were a budding teen rapper at one point. Tell me a little bit about that.
Mm-hmm. For me, at the time, hip hop was a way to express myself. I loved writing when I was younger. I loved writing stories. But when it came to books as I got older, as I became a teenager, I just didn't see myself in books. So because I didn't see myself in books, I didn't think that somebody like me could write books. But where did I see stories being told? In hip hop. And that's how I felt that I could make myself heard. So I started writing raps. I started pursuing a rap career so that I could tell the stories of things that were happening around me and in my life, because I didn't think books were available to me. So that was just my way of expressing myself. And I credit that journey into hip hop, no matter how short lived it was, I credit it for helping me become the writer I am now, because I learned that I can be my true authentic self in my writing because of hip hop. One thing you can say about rappers is they don't hold back, and the best ones are truly authentic. And they are real and uncut and raw, and they will make you think and they will make you uncomfortable. And that's exactly what I want to do as a writer. So hip hop taught me that it was okay to do that through my craft, even though I eventually got away from the rapping part and I got back to the just storytelling part of it. So I often say I want to write the way that rappers rap.
This seems like a perfect transition to talk about your new book that you're working on. It's called Concrete Rose, coming in January, and it's a prequel to The Hate U Give. And you're following Star's father, Maverick. Mm-hmm. Your first two books felt so contemporary. I was just wondering, why go back in time? What made you want to do that?
Maverick is probably the character I get asked about the most. He's the one that so many people they're fascinated by him. And it's funny to me that the fan base he has is so wide. Like, I have kids who are like, I love Maverick. I wish my dad was like Maverick. And then I have the moms who are like, oh my God, Maverick. I love me some Maverick. I would marry me a Maverick. I'm like, okay. So, but I think the pull, the reason people are pulled to that character is because he's a man who, for all intents and purposes, if you just looked at him on paper, you would make so many assumptions. You may make so many assumptions about him, and he's the exact opposite of what people think he should be. We're talking about a guy who was once a drug dealer, who was once a gang member, and now he's this father, active father, with his own little rough edges or whatever, and he's active in his community and he cares about his community, and he's instilling all this wisdom into his kids. How did he go from what we know that he used to be to now? So I wanted to explore that, and I have to give credit to Russell Hornsby, who played Maverick in the Hate U Give film. I still think he was robbed. He should have gotten some nominations, but that's me. But his portrayal of Maverick and then the questions he asked me about the character while he was becoming Maverick really put this into motion for me. He made me think about my character in a different way. So I wanted to write this story to show how young people who we so often write off can get on the right track with the right people in their lives in the right direction. So Concrete Rose, January 21st, 2021. I'm excited about it.
I'm excited too. I want to talk a little more about the character, because I've read that you sort of see Maverick as a symbol for George Floyd. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, honestly, I see Maverick as a symbol for most Black men You know, George Floyd, I look at him and I look at how when he was killed, there were so many people who tried to justify his death because, oh, he wasn't perfect. He wasn't this, he wasn't that. And if you look at Maverick, if this were to happen to Maverick, people would probably bring up his past before they bring up the fact that he's a good father and he's a good human being, blah, blah, blah. We're so often people look for reasons to justify death in these cases. And so for me, Maverick, he represents so many of the young men we've lost in this Black Lives Matter movement. And the fact that they are so often written off. But he also represents the ones who are right around us every single day. The young Black male who walks by you and you pull your purse closer, that's a Maverick. You know, the one who, when you step on the elevator, when he steps on the elevator with you, you're a bit uncomfortable, that's a Maverick. The one who you may see on the news because he did something he had no business doing and you're already like, he's a thug, he's not worth anything. That to me, that's a Maverick. So I wanted this character to represent those Black men who are so often written off and misjudged. And I wanted to speak to them themselves and tell them, I see you, I care about you, I love you.
It strikes me as kind of incredible that surely you started working on this book before this new wave of the movement arose. What has it been like to see the world change while you're writing?
It's been a lot. One thing that I can say is I feel blessed at times to write a book that's set in 1998, 1999, because it became an escape for me. You know, in 98, 99, the biggest thing Maverick is worried about as far as on a, you know, global level or social level is I hope the world doesn't end on New Year's Day 2000. You know, he's worried about Y2K. But also, it's sobering to think about how things have not changed that much. We're talking about almost 20 years ago actually. And we're having discussions about police brutality. You know, we're still having these conversations. We're still talking about racism and all of these things and poverty and how they affect Black communities disproportionately. We're still having these same discussions. We still have these same issues 20 years gone by. And if you look back to 20 years from 1998, same thing. You know, if you look back 20 years from that, same thing. So it's disheartening to see how much hasn't changed. But for me, I want my young readers to look at that and to look at that time and to see, okay, this is how things were then. Yeah, and this is how things are now. But we have the opportunity to build something even better. It's very sobering to realize my young readers will not know what a beeper is or a VCR or a Sega Genesis. A Sega Genesis. Like when my editor said, yeah, it's historical fiction. That was a dagger right in the heart.
I'm sorry, Angie. Forgive me. Oh, that's funny. You posted this tweet recently that I love. That was something like, thoughts and prayers to everyone writing realistic fiction set in 2020, which is so stark, funny, but stark. How do you feel like this time will impact your future work?
I've been thinking about that a lot. I was lucky because I'm writing a book set in the past. I could not imagine being in the middle of writing a book about 2020, set in 2020 as 2020 is happening. Because all of a sudden you're going to have things that just don't make sense now for this day, for this time. Like, you know, I had another tweet on Twitter where I was like, your next one true pairing in a young adult novel may end up having their first date on Zoom. Because this is the world we're living in now. And I couldn't imagine trying to adjust. So my heart goes out to writers who are doing fiction set in the now, because how can you do even a scene with a character getting on an airplane or going out to eat at a restaurant, or high schoolers going to high school? You know, all of a sudden that it's not realistic now. And that's the world we're living in. So I've already thought ahead though of how I'm going to address it in my future works, because you can't get around it. If you do, you're just writing alternate stories, alternate contemporary, whatever. And that's not going to work. So as someone who wants to write for young people where they are right now, I have to make these adjustments for them in my future writing.
Tell me about the production company that you've started. What are you focusing on?
Yeah, at the moment, I am focusing on my own stories and finding ways to get them out there in different mediums. At the moment, I'm working on the Come Up film with Paramount and Temple Hill and State Street Productions. We're in a good place with that. Can't wait to make some good announcements soon. I'm excited about it. The film is happening. It's coming along beautifully. The script is amazing. We have a wonderful director on board, so I can't wait to be able to talk about all of that.
You don't want to tease anything right now? Drop any names?
I can't at the moment. I can't. Contracts got to be signed. We're waiting on the ink. We got to wait until the ink dries. So right. I'm learning that quickly about Hollywood. Don't say anything until the ink dries. But like that's my first major project. But I'm also working on television projects. And I've recently got into commercials. I wrote the script for a commercial for the WNBA, which was an amazing opportunity. If you follow me on social, you know I love basketball. So when the opportunity fell into my lap, I went at it.
I know that commercial was played in their opening night, right?
Yeah, that opening weekend, and I had no idea it was going to play then. And I was watching the first game of the season with my mom, and I heard my words on the screen, and we both started screaming. Like it was a moment.
Oh, looking at just how far you've come in the industry and all these exciting young writers coming up kind of in your footsteps, what makes you the most hopeful? What are you most hopeful for?
I am most hopeful for the multiple mirrors, windows, and sliding glass doors that young people will be getting through books. We're starting to see changes in publishing. Do we still have a ways to go? Absolutely. But I'm starting to see all of the hard work paying off a bit. We're seeing more diverse books so that young people can see themselves or see people unlike themselves so that they can get some empathy and some sympathy. So that's what I'm really hopeful for right now. I believe books play an important role in all of this. If some of our current political leaders read books about young people who were unlike them when they were kids, maybe we wouldn't have to say Black Lives Matter. It would be understood. If they read authentic tales of Latinx kids, maybe we wouldn't be talking about building walls but bridges. If they've read authentic books about LGBTQIA young people, we wouldn't have to fight for rights. They would be a given. So I believe in the power of books in how they shape young people for the future. And I'm very hopeful that we're giving them better tools so that they can be better leaders than any of us ever imagined. So that's where my hope lies. It lies in young people and it lies in the tools that we're giving them.
I think that's a perfect place to leave it. Angie, thank you so much for spending this time with us.
Thank you so much.
Welcome back to Time 100 Talks. I'm Reza Bruner, and I'm joined today by actor, producer, and soon-to-be published author, Lili Reinhart. Lili, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. Happy to virtually be here.
Yeah. So over the last 3 years, you've had quite a wild ride, starting with Riverdale and then last year's Hustlers. Now that the pandemic has given you some time to sit back and breathe, what has it changed about your hopes or expectations going forward?
Oh, I think not even for what I want to do next. This time has just been exactly what you said. It's been my entire life has done a 180 in the last 3 years. And I've never actually had a moment to stop and sort of process it all. So even though the circumstances are horrendous for a lot of reasons. I'm actually trying to make the best of a bad situation. And I'm very thankful that I've had this time to just kind of step back and process. And I mean, I've done a lot of work on myself, which has been really wonderful, and I feel like I've grown a lot in this time as a human being. So I'm actually very thankful that I've had this time that I otherwise would never have had, 4 months off to kind of sit and look inward basically and reflect. And so that's what this time has been for me. And I think moving forward, I think just in general, I mean, a lot has happened during this time. Obviously, there's been a lot of, the Black Lives Matter has been a big part of the last couple months as well. And I think hopefully we will begin to see change in the industry when everything kind of opens up again and when we go back to work. Hopefully there's change reflected in that.
Yeah, that was actually going to be my next question is, looking at the industry as a whole, how do you think both the pandemic and the social movements in the US lately may shape or shift the focus of Hollywood right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think, to be honest, I'm gearing up to go back to work for Riverdale, and it's stressful because I know people who are already back to work, and COVID is making things very complicated. There's a lot of safety precautions, as there should be, but so it kind of makes the entire environment a little bit more stressful. So I really don't know what it's going to be like. I hope it's not too bad. I hope we can still find joy in what we're doing. I'm sure we will, obviously. There's just with masks on our face, basically. But otherwise, I feel like as a producer now and as someone who's trying to develop projects of my own and just be a producer on projects, not even act in them, it's very much a priority for me to make sure I'm implementing what I've learned the past couple months from doing Instagram lives with Black activists. I've learned a lot, and it's been incredibly eye-opening. And I think if you haven't learned a lot during this time, then to be honest, you're being quite ignorant. And I think I have become very aware of my privilege as a young white woman in the industry. And so I want to do what I can in my power, obviously, to make this industry more racially diverse. I mean, I think collectively as a whole, we as an industry should be trying to do that, obviously, and tell more Black stories and not look at Black characters as one size fits all. It shouldn't be just such a stereotype. So that's something that obviously is a priority for me going forward when I'm looking at projects to consider.
Yeah, you mentioned your new direction as a producer, and I know you have a new project coming out soon, Chemical Hearts, that is your first big producer credit. What was it that made you want to take on this kind of more behind the scenes role?
I like control. No, I'm really not. I'm really not a control. Now I sound like a control freak, but I'm really not. Like people, in my everyday life, I'm really not a control freak. But I like to know that my opinion as an actor matters. And a lot of times, when you're in a mass-produced television show or, in a huge studio film as an actor, you're not really making any executive decisions. You're not making any behind-the-scenes creative decisions. And that's something that I've always really wanted to do and kind of have naturally sometimes overstepped, like, oh, should we maybe, change this or do this? Like I've always kind of, put my opinion out there, whether it's wanted or not. But so to actually be in a position where I was able to share my opinion and know that it was being listened to and appreciated, and that was what was expected of me, it was really a wonderful, I loved it. And I loved being a part of something from start to finish. It was so gratifying, and just, to look back and I can't believe the movie's not even out yet, because I've seen the movie like 7 times, and I'm just very excited for the world to see it. But it was such a wonderful experience producing, and just kind of being in every little part of it was really special.
Yeah. I also feel like you have been producing your things like your social media in a way over the last few months, especially, you know, every young person is a brand director for themselves in some way, but you have also been so active with your Instagram lives and bringing on voices and activists, especially Black creatives and Black Lives Matter representatives. And I wanted to ask you about that experience of using your platform to elevate certain voices. What brought that on, and what do you think you've learned mostly from that so far?
I mean, I think it truly came from me feeling, I think it was right after we did the collective, like, blackout. Everyone posted a black picture and, you know, in support of BLM. And I kind of was sitting there saying, what is this actually doing? This isn't really doing anything at all. This is saying, I'm not racist, which is great, but also anyone can do that. So, you know, I figure at this time when I had nothing to do at the time, I was sitting around watching America's Next Top Model. So it's, you know, I was like, let me do something valuable with my time. And I just tweeted, I was like, send me names of Black activists that I can talk to that don't have a huge platform, that would really benefit from talking to an audience that they otherwise wouldn't have been able to reach. And so I just I really didn't think too much of it. It was very casual. I reached out to a couple people and I wanted them to, you know, I just wanted to have a conversation. I wanted to learn, and I've learned an incredible amount, actually. It's been very, very eye-opening, and is a conversation that's still being had today within my family, within my friend group. Just in my own thoughts, I'm very cognizant of this movement, and also the part that I've played as a white woman, and not understanding my privilege, and I really have I've gotten to know such wonderful people through doing this. I've made friends, and as someone who has social anxiety and is like a very anxious human being, and I'm not very sociable, I'm just not a very social human being. This really put me out of my comfort zone to go in front of however many thousands of people that wanted to watch that day in my Instagram live and just have a conversation with someone that I've never met. It also pushed me personally to just grow and kind of explore that. And it was really wonderful and beneficial for me, I think. And I've really made a lot of beautiful friends over doing that.
Well, it feels to me like you're part of a generation of creators and actors in Hollywood right now who are really interested in this change, and also interested in working on a lot of different projects, including, for instance, you have this new poetry book coming out this fall, Swimming Lessons. Poetry and writing are obviously very introspective crafts. So I was curious what you learned about yourself in the process of writing that book.
It was a very vulnerable, I didn't realize how vulnerable I would feel until people that I knew were suddenly reading my book. And I was like, oh, this is like someone looking into my journal. Like it's not invasive because I've given it to them, but it feels like, I'm like, how do you like it? You know, like I'm like scared to get their feedback almost. But that's kind of that's really the beauty of poetry is being just at your most vulnerable and basically writing from your heart and from your own experiences. And I've continued to write during this entire pandemic. It's been not, you know, I'm not sitting at my desk like creating these masterful poems during this time, but it's been such a growth period for me that inherently, yeah, I am writing a lot. I am exploring a lot. I'm journaling. I'm taking a lot of notes on my phone, just of things that are coming into my head and things that I'm learning. And it's just been it's been a beautiful process, and I'm excited for my book to come out. It's nerve-wracking, but I hope, and the reason why I wanted to publish my poetry was just so I could share it. I wanted to bring comfort to people who were looking for it. I know as a young girl, I started reading poetry because I felt lost. I felt depressed and misunderstood, and like I couldn't really talk to anyone about it or about what I was going through. And suddenly I opened up this world of emotional, romantic, hopeful people. And it was like, wow, it was very therapeutic to get lost in this book and in this world of someone who felt to the depth that I feel. Mm-hmm. So it was very therapeutic for me. And so I guess my hope in publishing my poetry is that someone can find comfort in what I say and my experiences.
Mm. So you are an actor, you're a producer, an author now. Are there any other projects or other things on the horizon that are exciting to you, that's giving you hope, things to look forward to?
I mean, I do have things in the works slowly. I mean, I would have loved to have filmed something. I film Riverdale for many months out of the year, so I have very little time off in between seasons, and so I definitely try to take advantage of that. Last year I filmed Hustlers and Chemical Hearts in my one little hiatus, which was amazing. But so during this time I haven't been able to do anything, which hurts because I obviously want to keep working. I want to keep, it's hard to, go from Riverdale to Riverdale. It's you feel a little creatively stunted in a way. That's just how it is for someone like me who is such a performer and wants to act, wants to keep playing characters and exploring roles and making films. So it's been hard for me to not be able to do that, but I'm incredibly lucky that I have Riverdale to go back to. I know a lot of people don't have a job to go back to, so I'm very lucky. But I have been working during this time as a producer on certain things. Obviously can't really say what, but hopefully something that I will film next year after season 5 of Riverdale. So yeah, there's definitely things on the horizon. I've already basically written an entire second poetry book. So hopefully if Swimming Lessons does well, there will be another poetry book on the horizon.
Great. Cool. Well, with that to look forward to, thank you so much, Lili, for taking the time to join us for Time 100 Talks.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me.
We're going to keep it moving. Our next guest is the singer and songwriter Lauv. He's going to share his take on how music plays a pivotal role during difficult times. Welcome to the show, Lauv.
Thank you for having me.
Lauv, you released your debut album at the beginning of March, and just a few weeks later, pretty much the whole world shut down because of the pandemic. How have you been turning to your music during these last few seasons to get through this strange time?
Honestly, I'm so thankful I have music. I would be going totally insane without it. It's been my way to escape, a little bit. Because obviously it's a really hard time, and it's, I think, really easy to get caught up in how scary it is, and so I'm just lucky that I have a place that I can go and kind of dive through my feelings.
Yeah. And one thing that you've always been very open about as an artist is discussing mental health. So whether that's through your music, but also through your work with the Blue Boy Foundation, you've made sure to be a resource for fans who need support with mental health challenges. Can you tell me a little bit about what you're doing in that space and the conversations you've been having?
For sure. I mean, something that became really important to me at the beginning of 2019, I think that was the first time I really understood what it meant to be depressed or to be seriously having an anxiety disorder. I was diagnosed with OCD and depression. And I'd always kind of witnessed other people, in my family and in my life growing up, struggling with various mental health issues, but I think it wasn't until I really experienced my own extreme low that I kind of realized how important and how important it was to me to start to become more involved. because like I think I had like the dynamic between feeling like awful and then starting to get better and realizing that it's like so important for people to be there for each other and to like open up, because that's sort of what inspired me to get help, was like my friends and family really kind of being there for me. So
yeah. And how during this time, how have you been able to address those kinds of issues or speak to your fans or connect with them about what's going on?
Yeah, well, through the foundation, we hosted, I guess at this point a couple months ago, it's so crazy, time is flying so weirdly, like a conversation with a professional and a few artist friends of mine, just kind of openly speaking about different aspects of how we're doing and like, you know, coping with anxiety and depression right now and other mental health issues. And me personally, I've been doing a lot of like inward looking and work and a ton of meditation. Like meditation's been my like number one coping tool. And I have a very specific kind of meditation. It's not just like closing my eyes and breathing. It starts that way, but it becomes very much like a lot of spoken gratitude, sort of like universal prayer. I'm not really religious, but kind of speaking out and letting go of control and a lot of that kind of stuff that puts me at ease and brings me to the moment. So that's been huge for me.
As an artist and a musician, do you think there's a connection that your fans especially see between you as like an emotionally vulnerable public figure and what they're looking for in public figures?
Yeah, I just think like today, which I'm really excited about, like more and more artists and public figures are not just being really selfish with their platforms, you know what I mean? Like, I think that's something I always like really didn't want to do, is make it all about, you know, like me, but actually try to do something good, you know, because you can reach an audience in like a millisecond, you know, posting something. So I hope that, you know, me sharing my story and, you know, trying to share resources as much as possible has, you know, helped people, inspired people, just, done anything.
Yeah. So also, you are obviously a performer, and the live music world is at a total standstill and continues to be. What have you been turning to in terms of creative outlets or ways to connect with your audiences to find, you know, that space to be with them?
It's really hard. I mean, I think in the beginning I was doing a lot of live streaming and playing just like acoustic concerts and stuff like that, or I've done a few other kind of like pre-taped, you know, very small home production things, like on my balcony or in my studio. But yeah, it's really hard. You know, I found like I'm somebody who's like always loved really connecting a lot with my fans, but I've also found like because this time is so hard that I've needed to really, for the first time I think in a long time, take some time for myself, you know, and really work on coming from a place of, you know, positivity and peace and happiness before I kind of am just like spewing out, you know, any type of issues I'm having, you know, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And then as a musician and an artist, what do you predict going forward? What's on your radar for the year ahead? And what are you hopeful for?
Well, I'm hopeful for live shows to be safe as soon as possible. I mean, it's been like somewhat nice being home for a second, you know, or really nice actually to just be home making music and kind of working on myself. But it's definitely, I'm getting to the point where like anytime I do one of these acoustic things, I'm like, I miss playing live so much. And there's no experience like being in a room and like the magic of everybody feeling like almost like one soul, if that makes sense, and like a magical live show. So I really miss that. But I'm excited to see that people are kind of innovating and creating like online virtual experiences and all sorts of alternative drive-in stuff, you know, from what I hear. And I think the future is going to be super innovative in terms of, you know, live music. But yeah, also just thankful that the recording, you know, the aspect, people are going to be always listening to music. So I'm super thankful that there's an outlet to at least release music and for people to hear it. So.
Lauv, thank you so much for joining us. I know to close out the show, you have a special performance for us of your new song, Love Somebody. So I'm going to hand it over to you.
Started off as a good thing, sure thing, you held back, but I know. In the moment all this touch, the rush sent us straight to the moon. I should have known that we'd be coming down, right to the bottom where we are now. Started off as a good thing, sure thing. What the hell did I do? Yeah. Every time I think I love somebody, always find a way to throw it all away. I don't ever wanna hurt nobody. I don't wanna be the one to say that we gotta have a conversation. I don't wanna watch the tears all down your face. No, I hurt you and I'm sorry. All I wanted was to love somebody. Why do I do this? Pick you up and put you down and put you through this. Started off as a good thing, sure thing. You held back, but I know. In the moment our lips touched, the rush sent us straight to the moon. I should've known that we'd be coming down right to the bottom where we are now. Started off as a good thing, sure thing. What the hell did I do? Yeah. Every time I think I love somebody, always find a way to throw it all away. I don't ever wanna hurt nobody. I don't wanna be the one to say that we gotta have a conversation. I don't wanna watch the tears roll down your face. No, I hurt you and I'm sorry. All I wanted was to love somebody. Why do I do this? Pick you up and put you down and put you through this. Oh, why do I do this? Pick you up and put you down and put you through this. Yeah. Every time I think I love somebody, always find a way to throw it all away. I don't ever wanna hurt nobody. I don't wanna be the one to say that we gotta have a conversation. I don't wanna watch the tears roll down your face. No, I hurt you and I'm sorry. All I wanted was to love somebody.
Thank you, Lauv, for that great performance. And thanks to all of our guests for being with us today. We'll be back next week with another Time 100 Talks program. In the meantime, we hope you'll follow us on social, use the hashtag Time 100 Talks, subscribe to Time if you haven't already at time.com/subscribe. If you'd like more information on today's program, past or future Time 100 Talks, you can get that at time.com/Time100 Talks. Until next week, thanks for being with us. See you soon.